Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second subtopic of our learning unit, listening and responding effectively. I am Noratika, and I will guide you to the end of the course. We can think 10 times faster than we speak. This means you can say a few words after someone's question, and then before the beginning of your answer, your brain has more time to develop a better answer. There are two basic thinking time techniques you can employ. One is by repeating or rephrasing the question, and two, by using a lead-in. We discussed earlier about how important it is to maintain eye contact. We also discussed that thinking is a private process. It's hard to maintain eye contact with someone while thinking, though. Yet, if you look away while pondering the answer to someone's question, you can appear evasive or as if you are making up the answer. So therefore, you need simple techniques you can build in almost as reflexes so you don't have to think about them. To gain time to think, repeat or rephrase the question. It takes almost no brain power to repeat or rephrase the questions you just heard, right? So therefore, you can maintain eye contact when you do so. You can repeat the entire or part of the question or rephrase the question to minimize any negative connotation. Whether you do with a question, you'll repeat it as if it's a statement rather than a question. For example, the question would be, how are we doing on the project timeline? The full repeat, but as a statement way, would say, how we are doing on the timeline. A partial repeat of it would say the timeline. And there's also negative connotation questions such as, how late will we be on the project timeline? So you can rephrase by saying the project timeline. Where are we on deliverables? You have given yourself a few seconds to develop a better answer in both cases. So make your restatement or rephrasing of the question as a separate sentence from the answer. Our brains form a sentence all at once as a whole. If you restate the question in the first part of a sentence of your answer, you undermine your ability to have flexibility in your answer. Here's an example. The question would be, what time is the meeting today? The less helpful way of answering would be using the repeat as part of the answer, like the meeting today will be at 2. Instead, repeat the question in a standalone sentence. You will have greater flexibility in how you respond. For example, the more helpful way to respond would be, the meeting today, we're starting later than usual. We'll start at 2. A lead-in is any group of words that follows the question but comes before the answer and which comments on either the questioner or the question. The typical basic lead-ins include great question, interesting point, I'm glad you asked that. More sophisticated lead-ins incorporate the content of the question. For example, it's great that you're concerned about timing, or the cost is a key element here that we must address. Yeah. So to use lead-ins effectively, you need both variety and sincerity. So if you use the same lead-in repeatedly, it can sound rote instead of genuine. That's why you need several lead-ins. You also have to be sincere. We all know from grade school that there are no stupid questions. We all learn from business meetings that there are many stupid questions. When someone asks a stupid question, usually one that is off topic or was just asked by someone else, you cannot respond, great question. You will sound dishonest. Instead, use a value neutral lead-in. For example, let's take a minute and discuss that. Perhaps more insight on that would be helpful. Something like that. In either case, you're not commenting on questions' value. You're just buying yourself a few seconds to figure out how to respond. Avoid lead-ins that can be perceived as scolding in situations like this. For example, as I just said, again, I think, well, to repeat, many people think that thinking time techniques are stalling tactics, and that's exactly what they are. You are buying yourself a few seconds to form a better answer. It's about quality, not speed, when responding to questions. What does a better answer look like? Often, it means turning around the pronouns in the answer. Remember, our natural inclination is to be self-focused. Our responses will usually be about ourselves or our content. If you give yourself a few moments to craft a better answer, you're more likely to make the answer about your audience. For example, the question, why is this initiative so important to you? A self-focused response would be, I care about this initiative because it allows me to blah, blah, blah. So the lead in and an audience focused response would be, I'm glad you asked the issue of priority. We've been discussing that you want to improve the group's efficiency. If we get started on this initiative now, we'll have a better chance of accomplishing your goal. So there you go. And of course, we need to know when to skip thinking time technique. It is all about the audience, even your responses to questions. How often should you use a thinking time technique? Not every time, but often enough to be casual at it. You'll appear more conversational in your responses. When should you not use thinking time techniques? Sometimes it's not only appropriate to answer questions directly, but you must do so. This is especially true when someone raises attack questions. For example, an example of an attack question would be, aren't you just ripping off your customers with this gimmick? So the direct response would be absolutely not. This initiative creates more value for our clients. So using a thinking time technique in response to an attack question would undermine your credibility. That's the point. So, for example, the attack question would be, aren't you just ripping off your customers with this gimmick? The unhelpful response, which, for example, if you're using this thinking time technique, would be, are we ripping off our customers? Thanks for asking that. Let's take a minute to discuss whether we are cheating our clients. So, in some cases, just answer the question. So, in our next learning unit, I will show you the steps to answering and reaffirming your main points. Thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions or comments on today's topic? Feel free to share them now in our forum activity or contact me on our eLeap page. I'll see you soon.